What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through the template draft 1 week after FPL's launched. So yes, it's finally time to actually take a look at the most selected options in the game at the moment, and as I mentioned, 1 week since launch when I am recording this video, however you guys will probably be watching this on the weekend. So I kind of think everyone that's very in tune with the FPL game, I would consider the more hardcore players, probably registered a team, and therefore this 1 week template is a pretty good reflection on what the current drafts are looking like. As we get closer and closer to that game week 1 deadline, but don't worry, it's about a month away still, but as we get closer to that deadline, more CDMs are going to be picked, and therefore the template draft is going to get quite messed up. So nice little reflection point, I thought 1 week after, but what I want to say is that if you guys haven't made a first draft, click off this video right now, don't continue watching it. I really do believe in the fact that when you make your first drafts, you shouldn't have any drafts in mind. So I just believe if you guys do see this template team, it might bias your decisions, and that's never good in FPL. But if you guys have made a first draft like myself, I dropped it a few days ago, go check it out if you guys haven't. You guys can continue with me on this video, so sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going on to the actual template draft, you guys can see a lovely 3-5-2 formation. I've kind of estimated the formation that most managers have gone for by the ownership stats, and I think the 3-5-2 is the most popular formation on hand. Now another thing to note is I got 0.0 left in the bank, so every bit of money was stretched into the starting 11, and I still went for the cheapest bench as possible. Now while you guys are here, do consider becoming a member if you want to support the channel. Legend members get free kind of one-on-one advice. I'll take a look at all your drafts, talk you through them over my Discord server, but don't worry, there are still free channels over there. So go join the Discord, link in the description, or follow me at DayvyFPL over on Twitter. But going back to the template draft, and as mentioned, I went with the cheapest bench as possible. What I've also done is I've gone for each of those positions and take the most highly owned option in each of them. So for example, in the 4.0 goalkeeper bracket, I've gone for Areola, a very high ownership of just under 28%, which shows you how many managers are actually kind of staying on top of news because Fabianski is currently injured. So there's actually a massive chance that Areola starts the season as West Ham's #1, and he costs only 4.0 million. Next up, we have our 4.5 of choice Botman. He's just over 30% owned, very high ownership for the Newcastle centre-back, and had a pretty good last season. We then have Bell as the 4.0 defender of choice, quite a lot of hype over on Twitter for the newly promoted player, and currently comes as the most reliable 4.0 defender. Then finally, in terms of the 4.5 forwards, the ownership is kind of very split, not many of them are actually going to start, but Surridge currently has the highest ownership. So with that cheap bench, the starting 11 is going to be absolutely stacked, so let's get straight into it. So number 1 goalkeeper in terms of ownership right now is Ramsdale, 5.0 million, so quite expensive. Can see myself probably going for a 4.5, but the template is going for a 5.0, and he's owned by just above 28%. So the combination of Ramsdale and Areola still only costs 9 million, so if you guys are going for 4.5 rotation pair, that's going to cost the same. Now what I will note is that the goalkeepers are quite split here. 28% for the template isn't too high, so it'll be interesting to see what happens come game week 1. Now going into our back line, and we do have an over 50% defender at the current moment. It's a Stupinan with 51.5%. So understandable, the Brighton kind of fullback offers that attacking threat, that defensive threat. Brighton have some lovely fixtures at the start of the season. So if you guys are going without a Stupinan, beware because he is quite a template pick. Then next up we have Luke Shaw at 34.4%, quite highly owned. I wasn't even considering him in my first draft, but have included him in my future drafts. Now in terms of the United fixtures, I actually don't believe they have that great of fixtures, but I guess Luke Shaw does offer some attacking threat, and he probably won't play centre back with all the centre backs fit at United. So like a Stupinan, attacking threat, defensive threat, United will probably have a pretty strong season. I can see why it's pretty template. Then our final option is going to be Kieran Trippier at 34.1%, so very high ownership. Haven't seen him in kind of any of the FPL communities teams, which does show you the managers that have actually signed up. But did actually talk about Trippier this week in one of our videos, the top 5 underpriced defenders. Trippier is miles ahead, and that might explain it. But my current thinking on Trippier is probably avoid him with those hard fixtures at the start of the season, but as soon as he has a good fixture run, I'll be bringing him in. So quite a nice kind of back 3, 50%, 30%, 30%. This is definitely the template back 3. Now going into midfield department, and we've just creeped over that 50% mark with Bukayo Saka at 50.1%. Understandable though, 8.5 million, great price to get him at. And Arsenal should have a pretty good season as well. Quite good fixtures to start off this season, but it's that underpriced 8.5 million point that he comes in that makes him quite attractive. I guess the same could be said about Rashford, however he is slightly more expensive, 9.0 million. That's not stopping the template though, they bring him in at 40.5%. So both these two players we spoke about in the kind of underpriced midfielder slots, and I think both will offer good value for money. Talking about good value for money, we've got two 6.5s coming up. Matoma at just under 39%. Understandable though, as with the Stupinan and Brighton have great fixtures. The Japanese international is a skill master. Will that translate into FPL points? I don't exactly know. So if you guys do want to go differential, you could go for a Solly March. Then we also have Mbumo at a lovely 26.7%. He's a real kind of FPL community pick, and the reason for that is obviously Ivan Toney suspended for the start of the season and the majority of the season, so Mbumo should start at the striker position. Now that's not 100% guaranteed. It could be Visa, it could be another Brentford attacker, or they might even sign a new striker in the transfer window. But at the current moment, going on kind of news, Mbumo and Visa are pretty safe, and even if Mbumo doesn't start at striker, he'll still start at that right wing. Brentford also have some nice fixtures coming up, but it's that cheaper price point and that potential for being out of position that really gives Mbumo his ownership. Then the final option is going to be Bruno Fernandes at just under 23%, to doubling up on that kind of United midfield. Understandable though, comes in cheaper than Rashford at 8.5 million. So if you guys owned Bruno last year, you know how frustrating he was. He basically halved his kind of output from his XG and also XA. So if he manages to regain or kind of overperform that XG or XA, going to be an absolute steal at 8.5 million. Now what I will add in terms of the midfield department, yes, Saka and Rashford are kind of highly owned, but other than that, we do have some chance for some differentials. Now the final department to go over, and the captain for this kind of template team, the highest owned player in the game at the moment. He's owned by distinction of players, it's 85.4% Haaland. So absolutely insane ownership, but you guys can understand why. I won't lie to you, when I do see this ownership though, it seems like it might be a pretty boring season with everyone kind of perma-captaining the Norwegian. So let's hope it doesn't go that way. Maybe we have some kind of spice up come that GAMEWEEK deadline, but at the current moment, if you don't have Erling Haaland, you're massively brave. You can kind of understand it though. Yes, he might be kind of overpriced. You would have seen that in the underpriced forwards, but you're going to captain him every single game week, so it's still going to provide good value for money at 14 million. But let me know in the comments down below, are there any of you that are actually going without Erling Haaland? I know someone commented on my video this week that they're going without Haaland because if you have him, you're not going to gain anything, so why not go differential? But I will add, it's a massive risk, especially at the start of this season. I would know last season started without him, and he scored a hat-trick I think game week 1. But luckily though, the second striker, quite a lower ownership there, only 32%, it's going to be Gabriel Jesus from Arsenal. So I've spoken about Jesus, he's been in my first draft, been in my second draft. I think he's a great asset at 8.0 million. So where you guys might go for a Martinelli or more expensive Odegaard, I still do like Jesus, but I want it to preseason because I just want to make sure that he's going to play. But on screen right now, you guys are going to see the template draft. There are a few other additions I'll go over in the next talking point that narrowly just missed out, either because of budget or because of ownership. But what I want you guys to do right now is look at this team, look at your current draft. How many of the template do you guys own at the current moment? I know myself, at least half my team is pretty template, but I have included one or two differentials that I think might be quite nice. But I want to see those of you with drafts that have basically no template options, but also those of you who probably have 15 out of 15. Now the last talking point, as I mentioned, was going to go over the special mentions. Now I couldn't include everyone. There were actually some options that were owned by a high amount of players, but because of budget constraints, I wanted to give you guys a realistic team. So the first player is going to be Mo Salah. He was owned by 26.2%, so more than a Bruno Fernandes, but because he's so expensive, I couldn't fit him in. So I didn't really think there was going to be a season when I did see Salah's ownership be about 25%, so a fourth of the game do own him at the current moment, which is quite surprising as he was kind of an FPL king. But let me know in the comments down below, are you hashtag Team Salah or hashtag No Salah? Then the second option, his colleague is me, Trent Alexander-Arnold, that was owned by 33.6%, so it was kind of between Trippier and Trent, but Trent was going to be over budget by 1.5 million. Now it seems like it's the flavor of this week over on the FPL community, it's the no Trent drafts. I know myself, my current draft doesn't include Trent, but most of my drafts actually have. But obviously comes in at quite an expensive price point, but it could be worth it in the long run if you guys do hold on to him. I just want to give a shout out to these two players because their ownership was quite high, but I couldn't fit them in because of budget constraints. Leave me in the comments down below if you guys are going with both these two assets or neither of them. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Tons of content coming up this preseason still. We're going to be going over the overpriced options next, so make sure those bell notifications are turned on. But I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.